Hi, I'm Malinchak. I'm Executive Advisor of Deltek's Talent and Learning Practice, and welcome to Govconversations. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Dan Carusi, our Vice President and Chief Learning Officer of Deltek University. We're going to talk to Dan today about how to sell to the federal government. Dan?
Hi, Al. Pleasure to be here.
So Dan, could you provide some insight as to what the best practices are to selling to the federal government?
Sure, but I think first you have to look at the complexity of the federal government market space. It's a collection of agencies between military, intel, and civilian, all with different challenges, different processes, some similarities, but some differences as well. So you have to take that in consideration when you're looking at the best practices for selling into the market. So I think first and foremost, you want to look at industry days and take advantage of those, and for two reasons. One, you have the opportunity to learn more about the agency specific or the federal government in general, but you also start to meet new people, contacts, networking, potential decision makers. So they're a great opportunity to leverage those events that happen periodically throughout the year. The next one is you want to start meeting with both procurement and contracting professionals, start building relationships with them. One, they'll help educate you on what the buying process is specific to that agency, so you can align your efforts around that. And then you want to start understanding the challenges and needs of the individual agencies and look at your product sets to make sure and see if they're aligned with a potential solution to be able to go help them. And then the budget cycle, the congressional budget cycle, you need to educate yourself on that, understanding the spending trends, the timing of the budget cycles, how it impacts the decision making around the agency you're targeting is critical and a very good best practice. And then research. You have to do a lot of research. And leverage technology to do so. GovWinIQ is a great tool to start really tracking the RFI, RFP release process, understanding where money's being spent, where the opportunities are, doing your research on the individual agencies. So take advantage of the technology that's available. And then lastly, I would say start building relationships, build rapport with the decision makers or procurement and contracting specialists, as I mentioned earlier. It's going to take a long period and process, but you want to start building those relationships.
Dan, what types of training would you recommend for new or commercial salespeople as they try to target selling to the federal government?
Sure. So first of all, the training is critical, especially when we see trends today. You talked about commercial salespeople. A lot of our customers are taking their top performing sales professionals in the commercial market and assigning them to a new territory in the federal market space and expecting the same success. And unfortunately, they're disappointed. It doesn't happen. It's a different market, different animal altogether. So training is critical. So when we work, Deltek University works with our customers, we look at 4 key components from a training standpoint. First one is welcome to federal government, or GovCon 101. And here we focus on organizational charts, diving deeper into civilian and military agencies as far as their infrastructure, who their decision makers are, really getting the landscape of each individual agency and the knowledge you need to be successful. And then speaking their lingo, understanding how they talk and the vocabulary that's specific to that agency. So it's a really high-level overview of government, federal government 101. The second part is solution selling. So the sell in the federal government market space is more of a solution selling approach versus transactional. So not that that doesn't happen in the commercial side, but in the commercial side you have a lot more product-based sales, transactional-based sales, a little bit different than the government side. You have to understand their business challenges, their needs, and then develop the right product and services and solutions that's going to help satisfy that challenge and goal that they're trying to take care of. So a lot of effort needs to be put around that. Third component is going to be on the buying process. What contract vehicles are available? What role does the GSA play? What's the timeline? It's a much longer sales process than on the commercial side, and you have to be educated on how that plays out to, again, aligning your sales efforts the right way. And the last one, which is completely unique to government sales versus commercial, is the regulatory compliance. The federal acquisition regulations, how the gifting regulations come into play. That one could put your sales opportunity at risk, but could also put your organization at risk.
Dan, that's great information. Could you tell us a little bit something about how you might establish a business development relationship with the federal government?
Well, I think you have to educate yourself. You have to become the expert in their business, expert in everything that agency does or the branch that you're supporting does. To the point that you become the trusted advisor, that they look to you as the trusted advisor, the subject matter expert that can guide them in their decision making and their solutions. You look at, I talk to many CIOs in the federal government space, and they want someone that's going to give them advice to help them solve their business problems, and a trusted advisor can do that. Once you do that, you have the ability to influence the RFP process, the solution process, so it's going to be developed and designed that matches your strengths as an organization, matches your strengths from a product and services standpoint. The last part is, and I mentioned it earlier, is build the relationships. People buy from people they know and trust, so you need to build a relationship that has influence over the contracting and procurement process, as well as the overall decision in getting awarded that contract.
Dan, thanks so much for talking to us today about the best practices of selling to the federal government.
Thanks for having me.